All right, I'm going to be reading another story from Zach Knight. I apologize for being late. I got so excited because I put an ending to my Silver Skies 1990s version, and I'm on a writer's roll, But let me go ahead and read another story. Gail's Men. In Gail's world where love and passion blend, a band of men so loyal to defend, each one unique with strength and heart combined, together they form an unbreakable bind. Brent Spiner leads, a writer and a guide, with 18.5 inches packing inside. His Mecha Gail suit gleaming with pride, by Gail's side he'll fight for love and truth worldwide. Vladimir erect with bear and vodka near, his judo chops strike Jesuit foes with fear. His girthy size a symbol of his might, he rides his laser bear, a champion in her sight. Matthew gentle, sensual, and sweet, his subtle size a love they'll still complete. With Hugh's strong hand protection he'll ensure, a steadfast bond that love alone will cure. Gerard the healer with accent thick and strong, a psychiatrist to mend the hearts that long. His wisdom shared, a beacon in the night, he guides their souls through darkness into light. Hugh Jackman fierce, his fists like iron rain, his strength unmatched, he fights through every pain. With robot armies by his side, he stands, defending Gail, as love and duty commands. Keanu quiet, a man of depth and thought, his introspection, a depth that can't be bought. A contemplative soul, a heart of gold, in Gail's universe, his story yet unfolds. Judge Terrance Jenkins, with southern voice so bold, from Compton streets, his Harvard tale is told. With coffee, guns, and heritage held dear, he stands by Gail, exclaiming, "Oh my goodness, near!" These men of valor, each one a shining star, together they'll protect her near or far. Their love for Gail, a beacon in the night, in her universe forever burning bright. That is a masterpiece poem. Like I said, I was joking with Zach when he gave that to me. He says, has your IQ jumped up to 200,000? He just rolls them out. Okay, so I apologize for being late, you guys, but it's very hard for me to balance my time right now. I'm on a writer's roll, and between trying to do all the Gail commandments, going out and exploring new places by riding the bus, and working on my writing is like a full-time job and a half. Writing is a lot of work. I got inspiration. The ending to Silver Skies was right in front of me. I have finished the first two short stories in Gail the Complete series, and I'm working on the third right now. I've decided I'm going to approach this project very much like I approached writing the novel Silver Skies. I actually have a lot of writing instruction books in my library, and I will be rereading them to get back into the craft. I'm also going to be using some new stuff that I found that works for me. I have a dental appointment soon. Lizzo's been using her mites to cause bone loss, and the mites give me tongue infections and swelling in my tongue. She is, we're doing our best to lick her, but she is the Antichrist right now, the acting Antichrist, and living in her false self. my purpose for writing Gail the Complete series, besides the fact that Jesus commissioned me to write it, is that I want it, like my novel Silver Skies, to be a testament to free and true love, which is basically what I and my men are. In case you can't tell by the poetry I've been reading, written by genius Zach Knight. So, from what I understand, since I never really put an ending onto Silver Skies, the version that I wrote in the 1990s, which I consider my best. But I've been hearing brain to brain from Brent that the producers and the publishers, I fought over it. I gave the manuscript to Brent, and I told him you can either go with a traditional publisher or we can do self-publishing like I've been doing through Amazon. From what I understand, Brent is going with a traditional publisher. I don't think it's out yet. Steven Spielberg, who worked on the movie that they made from My Silver Skies, yes, believe it or not, they made a movie from an unfinished novel. This was back in 2004, I believe it was. That's when Matthew McConaughey came into my life. And I'll be going into that in Gail the Complete series. Matthew McConaughey played the lead. And they won all sorts of Oscars. He got Best Act. That's the first Best Actor Oscar that he got, was for the movie made from my novel. But the novel was actually just about done, but I just have had writer's block about the ending, and I never really understood truly what kind of a story it was. And basically, those of you that are familiar with the Save the Cat categories, which I think as a writer you need to be careful with categories, but they do help you to structure your story so you kind of like have a general idea what your beginning, middle, and end is. Silver Skies I thought was a buddy love story. It's actually institutionalized. I realize that now. And once I realize that, you say, what's that? Institutionalized is, I'll just kind of like go over the different types. A buddy love story is, let me see if I can find it in here. Let's see here. Now, there are some people that do not like the Save the Cat category, some writers, and I don't blame them, because they say it's too rigid, that a writer needs to feel free to create their own themes. But I find this helps me to at least have a general idea what the beginning, middle, and end is. Okay, the classic buddy love story is a type. It's basically where you have an incomplete hero, and he needs somebody else to complete him. But he doesn't realize it till the end of the story, okay? It could be friendship, it could be a gay relationship, it could be heterosexual romance, but it's just two people who can't stand the fact that they don't live as well without each other, who'll have to surrender their egos to win. So my novel Silver Skies is not that. My characters kind of know from the very beginning they belong to each other, okay? But for reasons beyond their control, they feel like they can't consummate their love. So I realized, you may say, what's a typical buddy love? Well, Pride and Prejudice is buddy love. Okay? That's typical buddy love. I realized that it's institutionalized. You say, what is institutionalized? It's about groups. Because even though I have a strong buddy love subplot in there, the main theme for my novel was institutionalized. And institutionalized is stories about the pros and cons of putting the group ahead of ourselves as individuals. And that's basically what my main characters were doing through the whole novel. All of them were. All three of my point of view characters were doing that. And it's funny how I just recently figured this out. It's like I just got clarity about why I couldn't put the ending on Silver Skies, and it's because I realized that I always told myself it was buddy love and it was institutionalized. And now it's got a beginning, middle, and end, and it all works. I was just by listening to my subconscious as I was writing, which is one of the reasons this is so good, because I'm a very intuitive writer. I didn't realize it, but I was writing institutionalized story, because at the time I wrote it, I felt like I was in prison. Ultimately, all the stories in the institutionalized category come down to a question: who's crazier, me or them? Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you the ending, because because from what I understand, they are, Steven Spielberg is the producer director for the movie that they're making from My Silver Skies, and I think he feels like he needs to redo the story now that I put the ending on it. He realized he's got to structure it as an institutionalized movie, okay? Now you say, how are you going to structure? I think I'm going to structure Gail the Complete series kind of, even though it's kind of memoir, it's going to be nonfiction, but I'm going to write it in the form of a series of short stories. Short stories are actually fiction. Silver Skies, even though it is fiction and the characters are made up, there are a lot of parallels in that novel to my own life. And what's really funny is, at the time that I was writing it, I wasn't even aware that the Jesuits were obsessed with me, that the Catholic Church was obsessed with me, and I just chose them as the villain because I thought it would be a fun villain. And it was just uncanny how, by listening to my subconscious, I wrote something so truthful. Yeah. You say, oh, you mean, well, you say, what about the Silver Skies at Amazon? It's no good. What I did was I rewrote it and ruined it. Yeah. I rewrote it and ruined it because I thought it was a love story, first and foremost. And yeah, I messed it up. The version that I wrote in the 1990s, and I do best as a writer when I just go pretty much with my first draft. Yeah, it's how I do best. When I start rewriting, I get into this overthinking stage where I overthink everything and I chill my voice and ruin it. So I'm going to try not to do that with Gail the Complete series. The only problem with Gail the Complete series is I cannot wait for inspiration to keep going on this thing. So I'm going to do a combination of structure and inspiration. So what I did with Silver Skies, that was a 4-year project for me, was I did a big broad outline first. Then I did more detailed outlining. And then I told myself, feel free to break the outline if the story goes in a different direction. And when I started getting close to the end, I realized I couldn't stick to my outline. The original outline, I was going to make it like a big Bible prophecy novel, and it just wasn't working for me. And then, of course, I also found out about Laurie McBride, and I kind of lost my inspiration to make it a testament for true and free love. But so, yeah, now that So, yeah, I've been suffering a lot of writer's block on that one, even though I've always thought the 1990s novel apparently was good because Spielberg made a movie from it, even without an ending. And now he wants to redo the movie because it's got an ending, and he's really understanding it's all working together beautifully. At the time I wrote it, I just wanted to write what was on my heart and in my subconscious, and I wanted to capture some of the feelings I had for Brent at the time as my long-distance lover and put it in real life flesh and blood characters, and I did a really good job. I created characters that were sort of close to me and Brent, but a little different. And then one was totally made up, and her parents were made up. So it is fiction, but a very truthful story. Now with Gail the Complete series, I'm going to be doing very much the same thing that I did with Silver Skies, following the same procedures, I guess you might say, that I used to write it. My goal in writing it was I wanted to write something professional level, which I obviously did because Spielberg wouldn't have wanted to make a movie out of it if it wasn't that good. For Gail the Complete series, I wanted to be the same quality. See, my attitude when I wrote Silver Skies is I thought that would be the only book that I would write. yeah, I basically wrote it as a testament to the love that Brent inspired in my heart. And now I have the same attitude about Gail, the complete series. I figured it's going to be huge. It's going to be a series of short stories which will translate into a series of books, plural. I'm about 2/3 done with the first book in the series. It looks like it will be institutionalized. What I'm thinking of doing is making this kind of circular, which is what I did with Silver Skies, where I'm going to have an opening short story that's going to be institutionalized, explaining where I was in the beginning and what I evolved into, and then kind of closing circles. A circular story usually is about character growth, where the character is at one point at the beginning and then at another point at the end of the story, and it kind of takes them back to the beginning. And actually, I have a really good book on, so I've got to reread all of my writing books because they have been, I basically taught myself novel writing. I mean, I did take a course in children's literature. It was very brief. It was just like an intro, though I was very fortunate that I had an award-winning children's writer as my teacher, Jim Murphy. But I learned a lot on my own. I have about the equivalent of a master's degree in creative writing I did in my head in the 1990s. I wanted to make sure I wrote something really good, and I did. I want to get Orson Scott Card's book that helped me. Maybe it was Plot. I think it was this one. If anybody wants to learn how to write a novel, I don't know if these books are available anymore, but the elements of fiction writing from Writer's Digest books from the 1990s, these are really, really good. You may have to get them through eBay now. Circular story. Let me see if it was in here. I wanted I think that was in, I think I got that from Orson Scott Card. He's a great writing teacher, by the way. Circular story. I don't know. Circular story is one where, I'll just have to go from memory because I can't remember which writing book I got it from. It's one usually where the opening and the ending are the same, okay? And by kind of connecting them for the beginning and the end, it shows the growth that's happened in the character in between the beginning and the end of the story. And I kind of have a circular story with Silver Skies. I think my Gail the Complete series is going to be like that. So I opened up with me in an impossible marriage. I was married to somebody very emotionally abusive towards me, and how I found, basically it's going to be about my journey, the journey of my men, and how we have evolved to our current place where we're at. We've been through a lot. We have been through a lot. But one thing we never lost was our faith in the power of love and in the power of goodness. We've never lost that. And that's why I have to tell our story. Because I believe people are evil because they lose faith in love and in their own goodness. I really do think so. And they start living in their false self. God never intended any of us to be evil. I also believe that God never intended anyone to be obese. I talked about this on my walk video with my Patreon supporters. I don't think there will be any obese people in heaven. Obesity is a sin. It's the result of obsession. There are some exceptions. That would be probably somebody with a serious medical problem, but I think that is the rare exception. Most people who are obese are obsessed with something. Obsession, in most cases, is evil, and it means somebody's really off balance, and it is a sin. Yeah. No, it's not. Somebody who is obese has gotten that way because they are probably overly obsessed with something, whether it be eating, whether it be their bodies, or whatever. So basically, I will be writing Gail the Complete series to show what it was about me that caused the men to be loyal to me unto death, because basically that's what they're like. And to get such an outstanding group of men, including my Brent, who's amazing. Why he fell in love with me, the dynamics of our relationship, and why after 30 years, it started in about 1990, so it's been almost a 33-year relationship right now. After 33 years, the love is only deeper and stronger. And a story like that deserves to be told. And I'm going to tell it well. And not only that, we have a band of men who would die for me outside of Brent. And how and why they came into my life, and how we're navigating all this right now and still honoring goodness and true love at the same time. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Today I spent time watching some old productions that Brent was in. He was in a movie called Rent Control in 1981. He also was in Stephen Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George, and I kind of gave me some insights into what he was like before I came into his life in around 1989, 1990. I've got a very high emotional IQ. I can watch an actor and kind of in between the lines figure out some dynamics about them. So what I'm going to be doing as I write Gail the Complete series is I did something very risky as a new writer when I worked on Silver Skies. I wanted to show off Brent Spiner's heart. And so I actually did something kind of risky. I actually had 3 point of view characters in Silver Skies. 2 of them were men, and I'm a female writer, and 1 was a woman. I deliberately chose to have 2 male leads because I empathized with men who I felt were great and represented what a man should be. One of the men was a New Ager. That was one I totally made up. And another was patterned mostly after Brent Spiner, but he had a little bit of me in him too. Yeah. I obviously did. So I have to admit, so I feel a little intimidated about going into the man's point of view to tell a true story. With fiction, you can feel, if you goof, it's not a big deal because the character is fictional. But in this one, I'm going to be using novel writing techniques to get into Brent's heart and soul to bring him alive to you. Now, I've been making love to him a lot, but believe it or not, you can have sex with a person and not really completely know them. Brain-to-brain communications helps. Brent's saying, Gail, I think you're going to do great. He says, I'm really excited about you portraying me on the page. So yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I'm going to present, I'll be writing like a nonfiction novel. I guess I'll call it a novel because I'm speculating a little bit about what was inside of him when he fell in love with me, but I will be exploring that because I think I will get it at about 95% accurate, which is pretty good. Yeah. And my men are welcome to correct me if I really goof up. You may say, you think you can get inside a man's heart and soul? Yeah, I think I can. I did it in Silver Skies enough so that male producers wanted to make a movie out of it. And Matthew McConaughey fell in love with me after reading the novel Silver Skies. Anyways, I am due to make a YouTube video, so. Yeah, I'm doing research. When I worked on Silver Skies, one of the reasons it was so good is because I spend a lot of time researching for the characters. I have another writing book. Hold on. I think I basically got back all the writing books that I had when I was, where is it? When I was working on Silver Skies that were the most useful to me. Oh, I bet Lizzo's using her brain control on me so I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Yeah. I was rereading them. Oh my goodness, this one's kind of stuck in here. All right. Yeah, this one here talks about that. This is a really good book on characterization. I remember I read this. She says research is very important to really get to know your characters. She's basically for screenwriters, but hey, I started my writing career off as a screenwriter. Yeah, and then when Star Trek The Next Generation rejected my teleplay, I decided I wasn't going to waste my time with them. The way they rejected me, I could tell that wouldn't matter how good a piece of writing it was, they would not have accepted it. They were competing with me. They weren't interested in quality. We found out later there were Jesuits working at Star Trek. Yeah, Brandon Braga was a Jesuit, one of the writer-producers there. He might be good now, but in the 1990s, he was a Jesuit. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be rereading those again, and then also relying on my subconscious and tuning into my intuitive side, like I did with Silver Skies. So it's gonna be a multi-year project. I actually consider this my last great writing project, and I'm inspired by writers like Jane Austen, who I love, and Colleen McCullough's The Thornbirds is another inspiration. You might say, what about male writers? I actually liked Leon Uris's Exodus, which I considered better than the movie. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I liked to read. Another one of my favorites was Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. Though I have to admit, the English translations of his Russian is usually not too good. So, yeah, the Russians made a really good movie from it, though. Yeah, though it's hard to find it with English subtitles. Yeah, they did. It won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. That is the only film version of War and Peace that I like. Oh, by the way, I hear that the producers and directors at Hollywood and the writers are kind of fed up with the fact that Lizzo owns Hollywood right now. I'm hearing this brain to brain. And they've kind of like been going on a writer's strike. Because what's been going on in Hollywood is Lizzo is basically taking it over, so everything coming out of there is cheap and tawdry and trash. That's why I don't go to the movies anymore. I don't watch television. It insults me as a writer to watch the stuff that's coming out. It's like they don't even care about good writing anymore. They think they can make up for sorry writing. I call it zero writing, with special effects and dazzling costumes. And you know, when I studied screenwriting back in the 1990s, they said that the most important part of a great film is the screenplay. If the screenplay is no good, they said there's no way you can make a great film from it. It's impossible. I agree with that. Yeah, you just cannot. And that's the problem with today's Hollywood. So what I hear is going on is that I think they've tested the movie version of The Silver Skies that I wrote, and the public said, oh my God, this is what a movie should be. Why are we not getting this? And they're really mad because of all the garbage they've had to have been getting from Hollywood. And the writers are mad because out in Hollywood, they only take a script that's like 2/3 of the way done, and then they just tack on an ending and figure if they add sex and violence in there, they can sell it, right? Well, actually, I was taught as a writer that that doesn't work. Because actually the sex with sex, violence and violence gets monotonous, redundant. You just got to tell a good story, okay? There's no shortcut to it if you want to make a great film. This is something Lizzo doesn't seem to understand. And the film cannot be propaganda. Everything Lizzo does, all her music, all of her movies, all it is a big propaganda piece. Yeah. It's not good writing. And the award ceremonies are a joke. They, no longer do you get an award for working hard and writing a great work of art. Now you get awards for who makes the best propaganda. That's basically it, bottom line. So I hear what's going on is the true artists in Hollywood have revolted. Now, I used to work for Walmart, okay? And when I worked there, they made a Walmart movie studio for me because they knew about my Silver Skies, right? And I hear that has been revamped. Yes. What law says that all the movies have to come from Southern California, folks? Yeah. So, there's been a mass exodus I'm hearing this brain to brain of writers, producers, directors from Hollywood. They say, forget you. We're not going to kiss Lizzo's butt, man. We're going to make great art. We are exiting Southern California, and we're going to the Walmart movie studio, and that's going to be our new headquarters to make film. If that is correct, we're going to see a drastic improvement in the quality of what's coming out of what I call the Hollywood. I used to believe it was the Hollywood cesspool. That was back in the 1980s. It really wasn't the cesspool until recently. They don't make art out there anymore. The quality of what's coming out of Hollywood is so low, so cheap and tawdry, that the people who win the awards, it's all D minus and F films, in my opinion. Okay, maybe a couple of C minus. I mean, you don't have any more movies like Out of Africa and Gone with the Wind, which I would give a B plus to. I'm really picky. So, these are what I considered great films. I like The Best Years of Our Lives, the 1946 Best Picture winner. It was black and white. Writing was superb. Acting superb. I liked Out of Africa. Dances with Wolves wasn't too bad. Titanic was good. Early 21st century, we had a couple of good ones. I'll be honest with you, I'm not too impressed with The Lord of the Rings. I actually heard an audiobook reading of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which I think is better than any of the movies. Yeah. I told you I'm really picky. Yeah. So some of my favorite movies are foreign films. So I would say from about 2009 forward, just about everything coming out of Hollywood, trash. Oh, God. See, the problem is you win an Academy Award based on the pool of movies that make it to production, that get out there, right? Well, since Hollywood is boycott, it has got now there's an institution out there. It's basically Hollywood has turned into a propaganda machine. Yeah. If you produce to art, you are censored. You're not allowed to make art anymore. I mean, your vocabulary has got to be so precise. There's certain words you can't use. There are certain things you can't say. How can you make art when the rules are that stringent? Yeah. So I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to write Gail the Complete series, and to hell with all the stupid rules out there put out by all the retard Jesuits, okay? And I'm going to make great art. If nobody produces it, fine. Maybe my Walmart movie studio as well, but to hell with the retard rules out there in Hollywood, which is destroying great writing. And it's not just in Hollywood. The publishing world has been taken over by Jesuits too. Like the Brent Spiner clone wrote some dorky book, which my real Brent had nothing to do with, okay? Some dorky book. And believe me, by the time I'm done with Gail the Complete series, everybody will know that there's no way under the sun that Brent wrote that stupid book that his clone wrote. Yeah, that isn't who Brent is. Brent is actually a pretty deep, thoughtful person. He would never write a dorky, stupid book like that one. You see, but he's got a sense of humor. What a lot of people, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of what I'm going to be exploring in Gail the Complete series. What a lot of people don't realize about Brent, and one of the reasons I fell in love with him, is he didn't go into acting to become famous. He started off as a New York stage actor. I think the only reason he went out to Hollywood was because he needed to pay some debt off. And I think he actually felt like he was committing a moral breach by doing what he did, but he just had to pay off his debt. But it put conflict in his life. He felt like he was betraying who he is. I will be exploring that in what I'll be writing. The clone would never get it. He was the clone, the Brent Spiner clone from the very beginning was fame obsessed and jealous of anybody who had fame that he didn't have. Yeah, it's a kind of a complex, multi-layered love story between me and Brent. But we brought out the true nature of each of us. I helped Brent be true to who he really is, and he helped me be true to who I really am. But they don't write stories like that anymore. Pretty much from 2010 forward, once I became famous as a writer because Steven Spielberg made a movie from me, anybody who writes anything that's worth anything, they get the door slammed in their face. Not only that, the MFA programs, the master's programs in writing, don't encourage great writing anymore. Now it's just a bunch of rules, techniques you got to follow to write something that will be publishable. And everybody's so worried about being published, though there are some self-published writers that, but the problem is everybody's afraid to be original. They're too worried about censorship. Oh, somebody's going to sue me. Oh, that's the problem. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble if I write this. Yeah, that's the atmosphere we have to deal with. We're not going to have any Tolstoys, no Shakespeares, no Austens. Fortunately, I am in a unique position where I have financial independence right now. And I don't give a flip what anybody thinks of me. I'm going to write what I like to read. You may say, well, you don't have to worry about defamation. Truth will win in a defamation lawsuit. Think on that one. Anyways, that's pretty exciting news if I'm right that I've started a trend here and all the good writers, directors, and producers are exiting Hollywood and going to the Walmart movie studios. Maybe we will actually have some movies that don't put you asleep within the first 10 minutes. It's no wonder everybody's losing themselves in these stupid games because the movies are boring. There's nothing profound there. Nothing that makes you think. Nothing original, nothing surprising. All boring propaganda. Like I said, Hollywood's turned into a propaganda machine. And I plan on changing that with, well, I've already started with I have a feeling that Silver Skies is going to be released when Spielberg is finished with the remake of Silver Skies. And you'll probably find out. Go to 00 on cable to get the latest. Gabriel Chana Fox News, or at my website, gabrielchana.blog.